Alright guys, welcome to another HFoG's Rides. We're here at Redmond's Perigo Park. And this is where we're going to start today's ride. And today we're going to go up to Snoqualmie Falls. Because it's one of the prettier places to ride around here. And I thought that it would be a good place to show you guys. Now, it seems like kind of an odd place to start here at Perigo Park, but there's a method to my madness. The reason I wanted to start at Perigo Park is because if you go ahead and head south from this road here, there's a roundabout up ahead. And if we go right up straight through that roundabout, we're going to be on a very, very famous strip of road. And I'm going to show it to you in just a second. All right, as we go straight through this roundabout, we are going to end up on Redmond's Old Brick Road. Now this is a very, very old patch of road. As you can see on that sign there, it was paved in 1913. This is one of the oldest roads in Washington State. And this road has been here since then. It was resurfaced in the 1980s to kind of restore some of the deterioration that had happened over the years. But other than that, this is largely the way this road would have looked right at about the turn of the 20th century. So it's pretty exciting. This road used to be part of a very famous transcontinental road called the Yellowstone Trail. That was a transcontinental road that you could use back at the very early 20th century to travel all the way from the East Coast to the West Coast on road surfaces very much like what we're on right now. These old bricks were first kilned in Renton, if I am not mistaken, and put up here at around the 20th century. This was a route that was used by the people in Seattle to get to Snoqualmie Falls, because it basically is, we're a little bit, maybe a quarter mile away from the Snoqualmie River and Lake Sammamish. Sorry, not the Snoqualmie River, the Sammamish River. And this was one of the ways that the people in Seattle would get to Snoqualmie Falls. And as I said, you could keep following this road all the way across the eastern United States if you were particularly ambitious. Now, of course, back then, in the early teens, 100 years ago, this road is over 100 years old when you think about it. And 100 years ago, you would have been riding on this in some very, very early automobiles. This was the dawn of the automotive era. You're talking the old Ford Model T and the Model A. Back then, I believe the national speed limit was maybe in the 30s, if that. So, yeah, we're talking really slow. Going cross-country back then was a real ordeal. You had to basically bring along a mechanic. All right, now the downside with taking that route is it gets us going the wrong way on Redmond Falls City Road, but we can fix that pretty quickly. We're going to go up to this light and we're going to do a U-turn, and we'll come back the other way. Now, the only reason I wanted to take that route is because I did want to show you that old road, because I think it's pretty darn awesome. Having a road that's 100 years old just right here in Redmond, it's pretty neat. And not a lot of people know it's there, which I find kind of a shame. All right, well, I'm going to go ahead and sit here and wait for this light to change, and we're going to pull a U-turn, and we'll go back up to Snoqualmie Falls. So we'll talk in just a minute. All right, guys, we are now on the Redmond Falls City Highway. This is East 202. We're going to follow this all the way up to Falls City. We'll go through the roundabout that we rode the other day and go straight on up to Snoqualmie Falls. Now, Snoqualmie Falls is a very famous destination here on the east side of Puget Sound. Very, very common place for motorcyclists and just day trippers in general to go. Run into a lot of families this way because it's such a beautiful, beautiful place to visit. It's only natural that people would want to come over here and see it. It is a gorgeous, gorgeous place. But for now, I don't have a whole lot to say really. So why don't you just sit back and enjoy the ride? We've got beautiful sunny weather, perfect clear skies. Looks like summer decided to come back for a little while anyway. It won't be long before these trees are starting to change colors. But until then, let's enjoy this last little gasp of summer before fall really moves in. Now, if you're wanting to ride this ride, obviously you don't need to start at Perigo Park. We just did that for purposes of checking out the old brick road. Probably the easiest way to get to Snoqualmie Falls, if you want to ride this ride, if you want to ride this highway here, is to go out to the end of Redmond's 520, take 520 all the way to the end at Redmond, and then turn a right and go up Redmond Falls City Road and just keep going, and you'll be on this highway here. The alternative would be to get off at the Snoqualmie Falls exit and off of I-90. That's certainly a faster way to get here, or get up to the Snoqualmie Falls, but it's not nearly as fun as taking this highway. Now, the one downside to this highway here is it is a major arterial between Falls City and Redmond, and Falls City and Redmond are both reasonably highly populated areas. Certainly the corridor here running through here, although it does not look it because we're surrounded by all these beautiful trees and we're down in this little river valley here, this little creek valley. Although it doesn't look heavily populated, it really is. There are houses all around us up in the hills on either side, and some of the housing divisions on either side of us are quite extensive. We're talking some major, major urban area just on the other side of those trees. So while it seems like we're in a very remote place, and certainly this corridor here, it still looks very, very natural, it's far from it. We are most definitely in the middle of a very built-up area. I get a kick out of that little teepee on the side of the road back there. I don't know if you guys could see that. Now, if you recognize the name on that sign, Tolt Hill Road, that should sound familiar because Tolt Hill Road leads over the hill there, and that leads you on into Carnation, or what used to be called once upon a time the city of Tolt, out that road that way. So maybe that gives you a little bit of a sense of how all these rides kind of all fit together here. Tolt Hill Road, by the way, is a nice ride in its own right. There's a lot of fun little twisty roads back up in there. It is a bit heavily populated, though, so don't be surprised to get caught behind a car or two. Once again, down here in the valley, it may seem like you're kind of out in the middle of nowhere, but believe me, we are right in the middle of major suburbia here. There are major suburbs and developments on either side of this valley. You don't get so many down in the valley because, quite frankly, this land down here isn't really well suited to development because it floods and it's, the ground's soft and, of course, it's heavily forested. But back up in the hills, it is all suburbs. A little hazy and perhaps a little hard to see, but off in the distance you can see the Cascade Mountains and Snoqualmie Pass, which is the major pass on I-90 through the Cascade Mountains. And that large mountain in the distance there is Mount Si. Those of you who are old enough might remember a television show called Twin Peaks. And the mountain that they showed at the beginning of Twin Peaks was Mount Si, which is the mountain that overlooks Snoqualmie, the towns of Snoqualmie and Falls City and all like that. That is the Snoqualmie River Basin over there to our left, and we are just reaching the outskirts of Falls City, which is just downstream from Snoqualmie Falls. So as you can see, we're about to hit a speed limit change as we come into town here. So for those of you that didn't see my earlier video about the Carnation Milk Run when I went through Falls City, we'll give you a real quick rundown on Falls City here. Falls City was built roughly the late 1800s. It was originally a logging town. It was also built around a couple of forts that were here to protect the settlers from possible Native American uprisings. This was during the Indian Wars of the late 1800s, late 19th century. To the best of my knowledge, they never really had anything to fear from the native population here. There was never any significant violence or hostility between the Native American population and the European settlers here. Early Americans were largely welcomed into this community. Obviously, that's painting with a very broad brush. I suspect if you ask anyone from any of the local Native American tribes today, they might have a different story to tell. But certainly there was nothing here that was nearly as violent as in some areas of the American West, or even some places on the East Coast where the European settlers were fighting, like the Mohicans and the Sioux and the Navajo and all that. There was nothing like that here. It was significantly more restrained. Part of it, of course, had to do with the nature of the native populations here. They weren't a warlike people. They were largely just hunters and gatherers and fishermen that just didn't really have a significant amount of difficulty just living off the land here, and newcomers weren't really viewed as a huge threat. So this cafe over here, right there, that and that tavern there are both very famous watering holes for motorcyclists in the area, and there is the Falls City Roadhouse that we mentioned in the other episode. Now we're going to come over here, across the Snoqualmie River, and head upstream. And what's the deal, Toyota? Why are you going so slow? Apparently he doesn't feel comfortable going faster than 25. Peaches, nectarines, and more. Yum, yum. There is a campground right there on that island off to the right. The river splits and goes around that island there. And apparently there are some nice places to camp. I've actually never camped on that island. But I hear it's very nice, and obviously it's a beautiful place. It's one of those places that, so close to my home that, it doesn't really occur to me to go camping there. But apparently a lot of people do. And, as you can tell, they have spaces for motor coaches. They've got, they got some tent camping. whole bunch of stuff over there. And there's a fishery here. And there's lots and lots of salmon fishing here in the river. We're likely to see a lot of motorcyclists on this ride because a lot of motorcyclists like to ride up to the falls. It's a nice short ride from any of the downtown areas in the greater Seattle area. And it's a very beautiful ride, obviously. And the falls themselves are quite spectacular. So it's just natural that on a lovely Saturday morning like this, that there would be a lot of motorcyclists wanting to go up to visit the falls. So much so that you'll see when we get up there at the falls that there is actually dedicated motorcycle parking because, quite frankly, this is a very popular destination. All right, as we come into these twisties here, we are just downstream from the spillway of Snoqualmie Falls. Snoqualmie Falls is a relatively high waterfall, and like most high waterfalls in the American West, there is a power station that was built here to capitalize on all the energy from the falling water. So there's a power station, and well, there isn't necessarily a big dam. There is a dam a little bit upstream from the falls, but it's not a huge dam. It's mostly just there to control the water to keep it from flooding too much downstream. It's mostly for flood control. But of course, they've also put in a power station, and it's been providing power to this area for years and years and years. So we are now climbing up the side of the mountain to get up to the top of the falls. And it's a relatively short climb. We are nearly at our destination. Now, one of the cooler things there is up here at the top of Snoqualmie Falls, they have built a lovely lodge called the Salish Lodge, which is a very nice hotel, very pricey, very luxurious, and definitely worth a visit. If you've got the inclination to stay somewhere really, really nice, you could do a lot worse than to stay at the Salish Lodge. It is a beautiful, beautiful place. All right, we are here. I'm going to go around these guys because these guys are going to try to park down here, and I want to park in the motorcycle parking, which is right up here. So hopefully, oh, good, we've got room. Awesome. So we're just going to pull it right in here, and then let's go take a look at the falls, shall we? Now there is a trail that you can take that'll take you all the way down to the base of the falls. Obviously I'm not interested in taking that trail today. It's a bit of a hike. But it is a nice hike, and if it's something that you're inclined to do, it's there for the doing. I don't believe this guy's not going to back into us. Let's roll out of here. Got a nice little footbridge. These little parking lots on this side work great for motorcyclists, but if you're trying to put a car in here, you might find it a little difficult because it tends to back up really quickly. I'm going to ignore this sign, and I'm going to drive in through the valet parking just to give you a better view of what the Salish Lodge looks like. Hopefully they're not going to get too upset that I pulled through. So here you go. This is the Salish Lodge here at Snoqualmie Falls. It's a beautiful place to stay. I highly recommend it. Their breakfasts here are absolutely wonderful. Very expensive. You pay for it, but it is a beautiful, beautiful place to stay. Like I said, if this parking lot fills up, and it usually does on a day like today, then the solution is to go across the street and park over there and then take the footbridge across. Okay, we're going to try and do this without getting ourselves killed. All right. Okay, well, guys, that is Snoqualmie Falls. It's a lovely place. Definitely worth a visit if you're in the area. But that's pretty much where our ride ends today. I'm going to go ahead and head back down the way we came, and I'm going to go back home and try and get some work done this afternoon. Thanks for riding along with me. If you like what you saw, please subscribe. We'd love to have you here. I don't post on any kind of regular schedule, but I will post whenever the mood strikes, whenever I got something I feel is worth posting. And so you'll see things crop up here from time to time. And if you've got a suggestion for places for me to go, please go ahead and suggest. I'm always looking for new places to ride. Anyway, guys, thanks for watching, and we will talk next time. Bye-bye.